in our body, in our feelings, in our thinking, and also in our environment. That is mindfulness. Mindfulness helps us to be fully there in the here and the now. Mind together with body. Mindfulness allows us to know what is happening, going on in our body, our feelings, and around us. And when you are very mindful of something, you are concentrated on it. And mindfulness and concentration is the core, the energy that allowed a spiritual practice to be possible. And of course, we can drink our tea in mindfulness, make our breakfast in mindfulness, and take a shower in mindfulness, and all of them become our spiritual practice. In the Buddhist tradition, you learn to do everything in mindfulness and concentration. And by doing so, you cultivate the energy of mindfulness and concentration that will help you cope with the many difficulties that you might encounter in your daily life, in society, and so on. The third exercise on mindful breathing that the Buddha proposed is to be aware of your body. Breathing in, I am aware of my own body. Bringing mind back to the body, and you notice that there is tension, stress, and pain in your body. That is already something, some understanding, some awakening, some awareness. And knowing that there is tension and pain in our body, we may like to do something in order to relieve the tension, to release the tension and the pain in our body. So the Buddha proposed the fourth exercise of mindful breathing. Breathing in, I release the tension and the pain in my body, my whole body. And this is the practice of mindfulness of the body. Driving your car or riding on a bus, you may like to practice mindful breathing and release the tension in your body. You don't need extra time in order to practice. At any time at any moment of your daily life, you can choose to be mindful and concentrated. And like that, we learn how to live more deeply every moment of our daily life. We touch life in depth. You may need only 1 or 2 minutes, but it is possible to brush our teeth in such a way that make a freedom, happiness, and joy possible during the time of toothbrushing. Use mindfulness and concentration and enjoy the toothnet you have in order to brush your teeth. So spiritual practice is possible for all of us. You cannot say that I'm so busy, I'm too much caught up with my work, I have no time for meditation, I cannot have a spiritual practice. No. Walking from one building to another one, walking from the parking lot to the office, you can always enjoy walking meditation and enjoy every step. Every step can help you release the tension in your body, release the tension in your feeling, bring about healing, joy, and transformation. When you make a step, you might be aware, you might like to be aware of the step you make. You breathe in and you make one step. And during that time, you might notice that you are alive, that your feet are strong enough in order to walk, to climb, or to run. And you might realize that to be alive and to walk on this beautiful planet is already a miracle. enjoy the miracle. And that is a miracle of mindfulness and concentration. You can realize that life and become joyful, alive, and happy. The practice of mindful walking, mindful breathing can be very healing and nourishing. Let us enjoy breathing in together with the sound of the bell. Breathing in, I know I'm alive. Breathing out, I celebrate life. Practice center like Plum Village in France, where many of us live together. We are a few hundred monastics and lay people living together. And our practice is to be mindful and concentrated at every moment of our daily life. When we walk, we want only to walk in mindfulness, and we don't want to talk and walk at the same time, because we want to enjoy every step deeply. That is why we refrain from talking during walking. And if you want to say something, you stop and you put your attention on that something and you say it and you listen. And when you finish, you resume walking. You learn to cook in mindfulness, to sweep the floor in mindfulness, to take a shower in mindfulness. And every moment of your daily life is an opportunity for you to cultivate mindfulness and concentration. And in our tradition, mindfulness and concentration is a source of happiness. You can draw a lot of happiness from the source of, from the practice of mindfulness and concentration. We try to be aware, to be mindful of what we think. We try to be mindful of what we say. And we try to be mindful of what we do physically. In Buddhism, there is the expression karma. Karma means action. And action is seen in three aspects. First of all, thinking. Thinking in Buddhism is already action. When you produce a thought, that is already action. Your thought may be full of compassion, understanding. And when you are able to produce a thought like that, your thought begins to heal yourself and heal the world. And that is why the Buddha recommends right thinking. Right thinking is thinking in such a way that can make understanding, compassion possible. And the moment when you produce a thought of compassion, understanding, that thought begins to heal your body, your mind, and to heal the world. And a good practitioner can heal himself, herself, and the world just by right thinking. Right thinking is thinking in the direction of non-discrimination, in the direction of understanding and compassion. Understanding here first of all, is understanding of suffering, your own suffering. When you understand your own suffering, you can understand the suffering of the world, of the other person. If you do not understand your suffering, and then you cannot understand the suffering of other people and of the world. But our civilization is, our life, our social life is organized in such a way that we do not have the time to look deeply into our own suffering. In fact, we are afraid of going home and touch the suffering inside. That is why we try to cover up our suffering by the way of consumption. We consume television, we consume magazines and newspapers, we consume music, we consume food and drink, and also with the intention to forget, to cover up the suffering inside. There is a tendency to run away from ourselves. There is a tendency to cover up the suffering inside. But the Buddha recommended we go home to ourselves and try to hold tenderly our suffering and look deeply into it, because the light of understanding and compassion will be born from that act of holding your own suffering and looking deeply into the nature of your suffering. In the Buddhist tradition, to love is first of all to understand. And to understand, first of all, is to understand suffering. And if you know, if you are able to understand your own suffering, and then you'll be able to understand the suffering of the one you love. If you don't understand your own suffering, there's no way that you can understand his or her suffering. And that is why it's very important to learn how to go home to ourselves and get in touch with the suffering inside. Recognize it, embrace it tenderly, and look deeply into the nature of that suffering. This is a deep practice. It's very healing and transforming. If we try to run away from our own suffering, if we try to cover up the suffering inside, there's no opportunity for us to understand it. And when you don't understand your own suffering, you cannot love yourself. You cannot understand the suffering of the other person and love him or love her. And that is why when you produce a thought that is characterized by non-discrimination and understanding and compassion, that thought is highly healing for yourself, for the other person, and for the world. And for a good practitioner, it is possible to produce thoughts of understanding and compassion several times a day. We heal ourselves and we heal the world just by our thinking alone. When you produce a thought of anger, of hate, of despair, of discrimination, you know that thought begin to harm yourself, destroy yourself, and destroy the world. And that is why to practice right thinking is so crucial for our peace, for our joy, for our liberation, and for the peace, the joy, and the liberation of the world. The second aspect of action is speech. And the Buddha recommends loving speech. The kind of speech that can convey, that can transport understanding, compassion, and non-discrimination. When you are able to say something in the line of non-discrimination, in the line of compassion and understanding, what you say will have an effect of healing on your body right away. If you sit down and write a love letter, you may spend about half an hour or 1 hour writing that love letter. That letter that contains a lot of forgiveness, understanding, and compassion. You are in a process of healing yourself because you are practicing compassionate speech, loving speech. And the other person may have to wait a few days in order to receive your letter, but the process of healing in yourself has already begun. And a good practitioner can always practice compassionate speech, loving speech, several times a day. And you can heal yourself. You can heal the world just by speaking or writing a letter. And with a computer, you can write emails in order to practice right speech. And the third aspect of action is physical action. Anything that you do that has the capacity to protect, to support, to save, to forgive, is an act of understanding and compassion. Consuming is also an act. It can be also an act of compassion. Suppose you eat something or drink something, and with mindfulness and concentration, you know whether you are eating that or drinking that in such a way that can reduce the suffering of living beings, that can help to preserve our planet. You know very well. So eating is already action. Drinking, consuming is already action. And we need right action in order to heal ourselves and heal the world. So in the Buddhist tradition, action, of course, has three aspects: thinking, speaking, and acting. And right thinking, right speech, and right action are based on right view. After enlightenment, the Buddha gave the first talk, first Dharma talk on that subject. Ill being, suffering, and the path leading to the cessation of ill being, and bring about peace and happiness. And he proposed right away in his first Dharma talk, the Noble Path, the Noble Eightfold Path. And in the Noble Eightfold Path, there is right thinking, right speech, right action. But preceding right thinking, right speech, and right action, there is right view. Right view is the kind of insight, deep insight, that allows you to think, to speak, and to do things with compassion, with understanding, and without discrimination. Right view is the insight that helps us to be liberated from discrimination, dualism, fanaticism, anger, hate, and despair. And right view is the fruit of the practice of looking deeply. Meditation is an act of looking deeply. You need to have the time in order to look deeply at what is there. You need the time to listen deeply. And when you listen deeply, you look deeply, you get the insight. And that insight allowed you to be free from discrimination, from fear, from anger, from despair. And that right view allowed all your thought to be right thinking, all your speech to be right speech, and all your action to be right action. When you look deeply into the nature of what is there, you can get in touch with the true nature of what is there. And you get that right view. Suppose you look at a flower. Because you have mindfulness and concentration, you are able to look deeply into the nature of a flower. You see that a flower is made of non-flower elements. Looking into a flower, you see the sunshine. The sunshine is in the flower. We know that without the sunshine, no flower can grow. We can see a cloud in the flower. We know that without the cloud, there will be no rain and no flower can grow. And when we look deeply into the nature of a flower, we see the whole cosmos in it. We see time, space, and even our consciousness in the flower. And a flower cannot be by herself alone, because a flower is made only of non-flower elements like cloud, sunshine, rain, the earth, the mineral, time, space. So when you look at something like a flower or a cloud, you see the nature of interbeing of everything. You cannot be by yourself alone. You have to interbe with all of us, with everything else in the cosmos. When you pick up a piece of bread and about to eat it, you may spend 1 second or 2 in order to look into the nature of the bread. And you see that the bread has come to you as an ambassador of the cosmos. There is the sunshine in it, there is the cloud in it, there is the wind, the rain, the earth in it. And when you get that insight, you put it in your mouth, you are in touch with the whole cosmos. You touch the insight of the nature of interbeing of the piece of bread. And mindfulness and concentration in our daily life allowed us to see things deeply like that. And right view is the insight of interbeing that helps us to be free from dualistic thinking, from discrimination, and liberate us from fear and anger. In a few minutes, I have spoken about right thinking, right speech, right action, right view, right mindfulness, and raise concentration. There are two more in order for the path to be complete. Because the Noble Eightfold Path has 8 elements, and the other 2 is right livelihood and right diligence. And that is the path recommended by the Buddha for the cessation of ill being, for the possibility of well-being, happiness and peace. The 5 mindfulness trainings that we have offered for our friends is reflecting that teaching of the Buddha on the path, the Noble Eightfold Path, that lead to the cessation of ill-being, of suffering, of anger, of fear, of violence, that will lead to the presence of liberation, joy, brotherhood, peace and happiness. The path recommended by the Buddha, the 5 mindfulness trainings, is not a set of law, a set of commandments, but it is a spiritual practice, an art of living. And the substance of the path is the energy of mindfulness and concentration that you cultivate in your daily life. And we know that while driving our car, while brushing our teeth, while watering our vegetable garden, we can always cultivate more mindfulness and concentration. And when we have a solid practice, we have no longer any fear. We know that with that practice, we'll be able to cope with the difficulties we encounter in our daily life. With that kind of practice, we can help people around us to overcome their difficulties. But in order to have such a solid practice, we have to organize our life so that we can cultivate mindfulness and concentration. Because the 5 mindfulness trainings, the Noble Eightfold Path, is a very concrete way to practice mindfulness and concentration. If we are able to heal ourselves and heal the world, not because we have the help of a deity, a God, but because we are able to generate energy of mindfulness and concentration and insight. And when you practice with a community, with a Sangha, together you'll be able to generate a collective energy of mindfulness and concentration and peace. That can be very highly nourishing and healing. We all know that the collective energy of fear and despair is very dangerous. That is why we try our best to not to allow the collective energy of fear and despair to happen. They will destroy us and destroy the world. But when we come together and with our body, our breath, and our mind, we practice mindfulness and concentration, we can generate very wholesome energies of mindfulness, of concentration, of insight, of peace, of brotherhood. And that can be very healing and nourishing. When we organize a retreat of mindfulness, 500 or 1,000 people can come and stay with us for a week. And in the retreat, we just do that. We just cultivate the energy of mindfulness, concentration, and insight, and enjoy every moment of our daily practice. Every day you sit, you walk, you drink tea, you listen to a talk, but you try to do it in mindfulness. You allow the good seeds in yourself to be water, the seed of understanding, compassion, love, not discrimination. And the sitting can be very pleasant, the walking can be very pleasant, the drinking of tea can be very pleasant, the breakfast eating can be a joy. And we try to make every moment of the daily life in the practice, in the retreat, pleasant and happy. And when we cultivate together the energy of mindfulness and concentration together, that collective energy can help transform everyone. And transformation and healing and reconciliation always happen during our retreats. This year we shall have a 5-day retreat in Nottingham University, and 900 of us will be living together for 5 days, and that is what we're going to do together, walking mindfully, sitting mindfully, breathing together mindfully, eating mindfully, and learn how to embrace our pain, our sorrow in such a way that we can understand them, so that we can also understand the suffering of the people who are close to us, and that allowed reconciliation and forgiveness to happen. I would like to leave at the time, some time for some questions and answers. Thank you for listening. There is a microphone somewhere. When I look at a flower, I'm aware that the flower is the object of my perception. Because a perception always includes the subject of perception and the object of perception. The perceiver and what is perceived. What I'm sure of is the flower is the object of my perception. I'm not very sure that outside of my perception the flower is. I am very sure that it is a part of my perception. So there is perception, there is a mind in a flower. And I think we can learn to look at things like that. When you look at a grain of corn, you can see the grain of corn not just as a matter. There is mind in it. If you plant the seed of corn and you see that the seed of corn know how to sprout, to become a plant, to manufacture flowers and ear of corn. So there is a consciousness, there is an understanding, there is the know-how in it. So you cannot say just the seed of corn is just matter. So the insight of interbeing allow us not to be caught in what we call the double grasping. It means you separate subject and object as two distinct things. The object of perception and the subject of perception, they manifest at the same time. There is no separate subject that is looking for object. To perceive is always to perceive something. And that is why when we look at the grain of corn, we may have the same kind of insight. And there is no separation, there is no discrimination anymore between matter and mind. And you cannot say that the grain of corn is just matter. I think physicists of our time begin to see that with electrons and photons. They know that these elementary particles, they are very intelligent, not just matter. Our mind is in it.
What do you think religion and spirituality in general, and Buddhism in particular, has to play in creating a sustainable future?
Buddhism, as well as the other great spiritual traditions, can contribute a lot in preserving our planet. With the practice of mindfulness and concentration, we recognize the many conditions of happiness that are there in us and around us. And we may see that we don't need to go and search for happiness anywhere else, or especially in the future. We need only to be aware of the conditions of happiness that are already available in order for us to be happy right in the here and the now. And this is very important, that happiness is possible here and now. With mindfulness, you can recognize all these conditions of happiness that are already in you and around you, more than enough for you to be happy. This is very important. And I think the same teaching is available in Christianity and other great religions. And if you know how to be happy with the conditions, with the wonders of life that are already available, you don't need to strive more, to exploit more our planet, and to borrow other conditions. We have borrowed too much from the planet. We have borrowed too much from our children. I think this planet belongs to our children. We have borrowed it from our children, and we don't know how to keep it good enough in order to hand it back to our children. And who are they, our children? They are us, because they are our continuation. It means we have borrowed from ourselves. We have practiced. We have borrowed too much from ourselves. We borrow our labor. We borrow everything, our health. And there's not much left from ourselves. And our civilization now, our way of life now, is characterized by that tendency to borrow. You borrow and you don't know whether you can give it back. And you borrow, the more you borrow, the more you lose yourself. And that is why it's very important to wake up and to see that you don't need to borrow anymore. What is already available in the here and now are sufficient for you to be nourished, to be happy. And that is the miracle of mindfulness and concentration and insight. And only with that kind of awakening that we can stop. I have told my friend that we need to wake up, we need a collective awakening. One Buddha is not enough. All of us have to become Buddha in order for our planet to have a chance. You try to help, to save others because you have compassion in yourself. Compassion is a kind of powerful energy that allows us to do anything we could do in order to help reduce the suffering around us. We have talked about action, karma, in terms of thinking, speaking, and doing things. And if an orange tree can offer orange leaves, orange blossom, and oranges, we also can offer the things that are most precious that we can offer is our right thinking, right speech, and right action. that has understanding and compassion in it. And in the light of Buddhist practice and teaching, we are continued by our action, our karma. What we produce as thought, speech, and action are our continuation. Nothing is lost. The thought that we have produced, they are there to stay, to continue. What we have said, they will be there to stay. And what we have done, they will be there to stay. They are our continuation. One day when this body disintegrates, we continue always with our action, our karma. And that is why the dissolution of this body, that does not mean our end. We continue always. Suppose you look into the sky and you see a cloud. And maybe the cloud is looking down in order to see part of herself down on earth. Maybe half of the cloud has become rain and has become part of the cornfield or sunflower field. And imagine the cloud is looking down and see half or more than half of herself already transformed in a new forms of life. And the cloud is addressing herself down here. Hello, down there, my friend, myself down there. Have a good session down there. I will join you very, very soon. So with the mindfulness and concentration and insight, we can look deeply and we can see ourselves not only in this direction, but in the other direction. You are there already. You are continue with your thinking, your action, your speech. And if you are a good practitioner, you know how to continue beautifully by producing only thoughts of compassion and understanding. And the same is with quality with your speech and your action. So with that kind of insight, you will notice, you will touch your nature of no birth and no death. Apparently, there is a beginning and end. But looking deeply into the nature of a cloud, you see the true nature of the cloud is the nature of no birth and no death. Before being manifested as a cloud, the cloud had been something else. The water in the ocean, the heat produced by the sun. So that moment of getting the form of a cloud is only a moment of continuation. A cloud has not come from non-being into being, no. Nothing has come from, nothing that is there has come from non-being into being. And it is impossible for a cloud to die, because in our mind, to die means from something you become nothing, from someone you become no one. You pass from being into non-being. And with the practice of looking deeply, you see that nothing could come from non-being into being, and nothing can pass from being into non-being. And that is why the true nature of the cloud is the nature of no birth and no death. It is possible for a cloud to become rain or snow or hell, but it is impossible for a cloud to become nothing, to die. It's impossible for a cloud to die. The same thing is true with us and with our beloved one. So if it happens that you don't see your beloved one anymore in her usual form, don't think that she has died. She already has her own, her new manifestation. If you are mindful enough, if you are concentrated enough, you recognize her new forms. when the cloud is no longer in the sky, and you may cry, where is she now, my beloved cloud? But the cloud has become the rain and calling you, darling, darling, don't you see me? Here I am. So we should be able to recognize our beloved cloud in her new manifestation. That is why with the insight of no birth, no death, fear is no longer there, and happiness becomes something very, very deep, very real. And with the insight of interbeing, the person you say is yourself. She is your continuation. The teaching of the Buddha is very clear on this matter. We know that the four noble truths begin with ill-being, suffering, and the second noble truth is about the making of the suffering, the roots, the making of suffering. When you look into your suffering deeply, you, with concentration, you will be able to find out how that kind of suffering has come to you. And there is a disciple of the Buddha, Shariputra. One day he described the making of suffering in terms of consumption, in terms of food. Because the Buddha one time said nothing can survive without food, including your love, your happiness, your suffering. Your love may be very beautiful, but if you don't know how to feed your love, it will die. It will turn into hatred or anger. So your love needs nutriment, need food. So if you are a lover, you should learn how to feed your love with the proper kind of nutriment. Your despair, your depression also. We have lived in such a way that allowed our depression, our fear, our despair to become a reality. We can look into the nature of our suffering, our depression, in terms of nutriment. What we consume as like television, like a newspaper, like conversation, like food, should have been the kind of nutriment that has brought that kind of depression to us. The Buddha said that what has come to be, namely your suffering, your depression, what has come to be. If you know how to look deeply into its nature and recognize the source of nutriment that has brought it to you, you are already on the path of emancipation and healing. So when we look into our own suffering, we might ask the question, what I have used as a nutriment to feed this in order for it to be like this. And that is one of the ways to understand your own suffering. And when you have found out the source of nutriment that has brought your suffering in, you can begin to cut off that source of nutriment, and you deprive your suffering, your depression of that source of food. And your suffering, your depression will have to die because there is no longer any nutriment to feed it.
Thank you. I'm a little bit confused about the concept of karma. Can you tell a bit more about that cause and effect and changing karma? Thank you.
Karma is just action. And we have learned that karma can be thinking, can be speaking, can be acting. And we can always produce a good action. You can always produce good action, good thinking, good speaking, and good action. But it happened that yesterday we have produced a thought of hate, of anger, or we have done something out of anger and hate. And we know today that this is not a good continuation that we want to be. So we can very well do something in order to transform it. You establish yourself in the present moment. You are aware that yesterday you have produced such a thought, such a speech, such an action that will bring about suffering to you and to other person. So you are established in the here and now. You produce another kind of thought in the opposite direction. Now, sitting here, you produce a thought of forgiveness, of compassion, of understanding. And as soon as that thought is produced, it will catch up with the other thought and neutralize it right away. That's changing the karma. It's possible with the practice in the here and the now. And we can assure a beautiful continuation in the future.
First of all, I'd like to say that it's very relaxing to be in your company. And here's my question. In daily life, when I do meditation, or if I'm in a nice situation, I find it easy to feel good about myself or others, or to do good actions. But when I get sad, angry, worried, I find it very difficult to remember how to practice presence or mindfulness. How can I remember to practice in difficult times?
You can practice alone, or you can practice with a sangha, with a community. In the Buddhist tradition, you are encouraged to practice with a sangha, a community. First of all, because the sangha can produce collective energy. Suppose you are a beginner in the practice, and your mindfulness and concentration is not strong enough in order for you to recognize and embrace your pain and to get a relief. And if you have a sangha, you can go to your sangha and you sit with many people. The sangha is breathing in and out and sitting in mindfulness and concentration. And you say, dear sangha, here is my pain. Here is my despair. I am a beginner in the practice. My mindfulness and concentration is not strong enough for me to hold and to embrace my pain and my despair. Please help me to hold and embrace my pain, my despair. And then with the collective energy of mindfulness and concentration and compassion, you'll be able to do that. Something that you cannot do when you are alone. That is why practicing with the Sangha is very important, helpful, especially when you are a beginner. The Sangha and energy of mindfulness and concentration generated by the Sangha is like a boat that can transport you and allow you not to sink into the river of suffering. When you throw a rock into the river, it will sink. But if you have a boat, you can keep many hundreds of pounds of rock floating. The same thing is with the collective mindfulness of the Sangha. Even if your despair, your anger, your fear is enormous, but if you go to a Sangha and allow the Sangha to transport you, to guide you, to embrace you, then you'll be able to hold your pain, your sorrow, and allow it to be transformed. And if you have a Sangha, go to Sangha frequently. In Plum Village, we are trying now to build a kind of electronic temple. And you can come to listen to a Dharma talk, to practice sitting meditation with us, to breathe with us online. Dear friends, you are not aware of that or of this, but this evening is online. Many thousand people follow us in this retreat, thanks to the work of our brothers here. They make this evening available to many friends, a little bit everywhere. Yeah, online. Enjoy your breathing. Sister True Emptiness will offer you a song, The Smile. She is 73. She has practiced 25 years as a nun. Thank you very much for your mindfulness and joy.
Nous sommes de la nuit, à ce jour qui commence, à l'oiseau qui m'enchante. Je souris au monde et le monde me sourit. Je souris à l'enfant qui vient sur mon chemin. Je pense aussi à tous ceux qui ont faim, ceux qui loin dans ce monde vivent dans la misère, qui ont connu la guerre, qui ont perdu leur mère. Si parfois mon sourire se mouille de pleurs, en voyant de ce monde la profonde de douleur, je veux sourire encore à travers mes pleurs, sourire à la vie, sourire à la mort. Et un jour viendra où il fera très froid, où je ne laisserai plus la trace de mes pas. Par le courant de la vie qui jamais ne s'arrête, me laisserai-je entraîner sans regarder derrière. La peur alors ne fermera plus le chemin. Mon cœur enfin sourit. Je deviendrai alors le sourire de la terre, de la fleur, de l'oiseau, de la pluie et du vent. Et un jour peut-être, dans un tout petit enfant, je rouvrirai les yeux aux merveilles de la vie. Et un peu plus aimant, un peu plus souriant, je continuerai ce beau chemin. I smile to the stars that still shine in the sky, to the sun that slowly guides us out of the night, to the day that begins, to the enchanting bird. I smile to the world, and the world smiles to me. I smile to the child that crosses my way. I remember also on those who are hungry, those who live in misery all over the planet, who have to face the war, who lost their mother. If sometime my smile is moistened by tears, when I see the great pain that spread over the world, I shall still be smiling with tears in my eyes, smiling to life, smiling to death. And one day will come when it is bitterly cold, when even my footsteps will not leave any mark. The never-ending current of life's energy will carry me along, and I will not look back. The fear will no longer block my way. My heart finally opens very wide. Then I will become the smile of the earth, of the flower, of the sun, of the rain and the wind. And one day, perhaps, in a very small child, I will open my eyes to the wonders of life, and a little more loving, and a little more smiling. I will continue this wonderful way. Friends, you know that our teacher had 84-year-old, and he had written 100 books, more than 100 books. And all these books have been written by many of you. It means of your living experience of what he shares simply. And many of you have put into practice and have been being peace for yourself, bring peace to your beloved one and to your relative, and report to our teacher. And so he shared the practical apply Buddhism in daily life, in each walk of life. Among the young people who have overcome his difficulty with his parents, among the even not very young, but who have the father of 80-year-old, and for 15 years they never speak to each other, but they can make peace to each other. And partner, children and colleagues. And so all our living experience are put into the book, and many CD report. So if you pick up any book, any CD, any DVD, you may be able to help one person. There is a person who rent a new house, and you arrive when the former renter forget the CD. So one day in depression, he listened to the CD. He was wake up
and he's alive again, and he tried to reconnect with life and reconcile himself and with others. And so it's very helpful for him, and from that day he became a member of the Sangha, and he shared many of his application into Buddhist, apply Buddhism into his life. And so, but among all these 100 books, there is no book who mentioned that silently our teacher and our Sangha try to help silently more than 1,000 kindergarten class for children from 20-month-old to 5-year-old, living in a very remote area of Vietnam, not in a big city like Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi or where, but far away, and the government are not able to set up kindergarten yet because it's too remote, and the number of children are only 25, 40. The government can set up a kindergarten for 200, so on. And so the way is we do not build 1,000 schools. We only gather 25 children, or 18 or 35 in a house of the farmer, and we pay a school teacher and a helper who clean the toddler of 20-month-old with a lot of dirt and cut the nail and help them to sing and to play. And then we feed them at noon, and in evening the parents work so hard in the forest on the tea grow or coffee grow, come and pick up the children. And this recent year, economy is so difficult, and donor is become smaller and smaller. And so our teachers, I asked him, can we stop these maternal classes? He said, no. And I said, where we can pay? He said, I write calligraphy. And so he write a number of sentences of he just shared during his teaching, like when somebody is so angry, he said, breathe, my dear, everything will be okay. You go back to your peace and your understanding. And so on the teaching of him, he tried to condense into a little sentence for people to bring home and bring him home. In your living room, somebody said that, oh, my family, they don't like to put that. I like to have a small one to put in my desk. And so he tried to write also, use a small calligraphy for the desk, but this is an artwork, this is his heart, his love, and he do it beautifully. And at the bottom, there is a seal of his name, and he asked us to do it. He do it properly with his love, his care, and his deep wish that somebody can put into practice what he proposed. And so it's very important. And one big calligraphy like that costs 80 pounds, but you can help to pay one school teacher, one helper to clean the children, and also 25 children to have lunch for 1 month. But sometimes we make a small one, it only costs only 40 pounds, and just for feeding the children, not the school teacher. So, but if you cannot pay 40 pounds, you can give any little pound, it's okay. But the main point is we try to tell you that all these things we have done with our heart, and Thay said that it's not only for the children, but for those who receive it, because I give my peace, my love, my care in that artwork. And it's unique, it's his handwriting, it's not duplicate or printed. So thank you for your attention. And I think that for Nottingham retreat, do you think that there's still a few places for people to sign up if they like? We have, I think that more than 900. It's sold out already, I'm sorry. In order to help us concentration. Concentration is not on sitting meditation, but we try to focus our attention to the here and now. And so is the designer of young novice, Brother Thay. Stand up, his design. So you can have a watch and you want to see what time it is. 9 o'clock now. 8 o'clock now. So that is the designer, and then one of his friends, also one brother, tried to order if we can have it available for you to bring home and to look at time. Go back to the present moment now. The brother and the sister will be out there, and you can ask questions directly to them. Why 17-year-old he decided to become monk? And there is a wake-up movement where many young people are invited to wake up and to lead the future of the planet.
You can find us online for any young people here. The website is wkup.org, wakeup.org. We're an international family of young people who lead retreats all over Europe and America, and also now in Asia. And you're all very welcome to join us. You can also find us, of course, on Facebook. The video, I hope it was clear, has been live streamed online. So if you go to the Plum Village website or to Facebook, you can easily find the live streaming of tonight's Dharma talk. Please share it with your friends. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening. Here's some more.
Thank you. Hello. Just last thing, I wanted to thank the local London Sanghas for putting all of the wonderful work they did to make this possible. So Thay shared about how we can take refuge and find local groups to practice with. If we've been inspired to take this practice and actually put it into practice, then we get a lot of support if we find a local group that is practicing. So that is the Sangha, that is the London Sangha. And they had a lot of joy, I think, working together to put this together, but they also practice in various parts of London, including central London.